Hi everyone, good evening. I'm going to dive right in. So my research deals with Kuwaiti identity, the historical establishment of the nation itself, and most importantly, its manifestation in global cyberspace, where national culture and geography are no longer mutually exclusive. These are ideas that I'm illustrating tonight through Kuwaiti memes, which I contend in my research are able to subvert a singular cultural identity while reinforcing it through a framework of national exclusion. Now, I barely have any time to go through this, so my apologies if I'm sprinting with no pause. But let me preface the rest of this presentation by introducing myself. My name is Yasmeen Khaja, and I'm a national subject. I'm from Kuwait. So the Kuwaiti population is at an extreme 4.3 million people. It's a tiny country. Yet 70% of the population is made up of non-Kuwaiti residents. Kuwaiti citizens are a minority in their own country, and this is the currently critical state of Kuwait, and these numbers are an inevitable threat to a national identity. There was a serious flash flood in November of last year in Kuwait, which triggered a mass distribution of internet memes in the Kuwaiti corners of cyberspace, meaning that social media spaces were temporarily transformed into a social operating field for public discourse. These are memes of Isa Ramadan, a Kuwaiti expert in meteorology who has been co-opted into a public symbol of some kind of weather authority. So some context, Kuwait is essentially a welfare state, free healthcare, free education, basic needs. Every national subject is institutionally guaranteed a job in the public sector. And this cluster of memes illustrate for us a public desire for more days off of work during the floods, with people appropriating Isa as a form of powerful governance. This is Nabil Shail, one of the first Kuwaiti musicians who sang in the specifically Kuwaiti dialect. He's known as Bulbul al-Khalij, and Bulbul is a bird term of endearment used to describe someone who's sweet. To your right, we see him in dialogue with Isa Ramadan, pleasantly persuading Isa to give people the day off. And in these memes, Nabil represents the image of the darling, homely, almost motherly figure in his care and concern for the people. During the flood, a video went around of this otherwise random person, Aziz, reporting on television. He was instantly consumed for his good looks. We see two actresses in distress looking for Aziz, and a screenshot shared with a quick rundown of his life as defined by full name, career, marital status, and underwear size, sexualizing the random Aziz into Kuwaiti discourse. So upon a closer read of any of these memes, they reveal their potential to manifest different facets of Kuwaiti culture through a geographically specific national event, the flood. But specifically in cyberspace that is not bound by geography, they are visual tools used to establish a sense of Kuwaiti national identity. But as all nationalisms are inherently centered around forms of exclusion, these memes are capable of redefining national territory. This is Safa al-Hashim, a member of the parliament known for her politic against foreigners. In this meme, al-Hashim is policing the national boundary. But the act of sharing this meme online further polices the construction of Kuwaiti territory. If you get the meme and it's hilarious, you're in on the joke and you're in on the nation. If you don't get the meme and it's disturbing and it's not hilarious, you're outside of the Kuwaiti boundary. And the very notion of boundary construction and of exclusion is the foundation of the country's existence. This meme, also from the flood, is a map of Kuwait with its bordered territory colored in a shade of Google Maps blue. In some ways, this is just a meme in relation to the floods, right? Kuwait is now underwater. But this meme also carries with it a deeply ingrained understanding of the Kuwaiti nation as an inherently bordered place, meaning that for the national subject, without these borders, Kuwait simply does not exist. So Kuwait itself is now a meme. And while today memes may mean something along the lines of this digital object and its cousins, Richard Dawkins first defined the meme as analogous to genetics in their position to construct biological copies. Except a meme is not biological. It is a unit or element of cultural information that is spread by imitation, an idea to be replicated. And it's in this capacity for imitation that creates the human invention of culture. So for example, a sandwich is definitely a kind of meme. Traditionally speaking, you have two slices of bread with something in between. And the idea of the sandwich is so simple, and we all know it. You don't have to think about a specific sandwich to know what a sandwich can be. And of course, in the sandwich world, there are particular sandwich memes, such as the peanut butter and jelly or the grilled cheese. But I'm not really talking about sandwiches. This is about meme construction. This advertisement here is a Kuwaiti meme, but not in the same way that the flood memes were memes. So it's not because of the Kuwaiti actor, and it's not because of the obviously globalized image of the American burger, which is a kind of sandwich, but the reason this image in its entirety is a meme is afforded by the infrastructure of cyberspace, meaning the very fact that this commercial was uploaded onto the internet after the fact, its existence today, right here on a projected screenshot of a YouTube video that I can show you, is what turns this 1994 commercial into a meme that today memifies Kuwaitiness. It presents a unit of Kuwaiti culture as something that can be replicated. So the ways in which we can document, record, remix, appropriate, and all the wonderfully generative affordances of cyberspace is the very reason that Kuwait can now be memified on a global scale. Kuwait identity is indeed a unit of cultural information that is replicable, and perhaps the very desire to replicate Kuwaitiness as an idea, to memify it, comes from its historically loaded context of a nation constructed. Kuwait is a meme, a place invented by British allies and forms of political power. This is a video from 1940 by Alan Villiers, an Australian photographer. In this film, Villiers frames the Persian Gulf and Kuwait right around the unearthing of oil, which happened during 1938. And we can analyze this record as the beginnings of writing the region into a narrative. This 1974 film by John Feeney is yet another video establishing the narrative of a country and its culture. These images continue to perpetuate the Oriental gaze of creating a culture that assumes a perception of virtual fixedness, framing the way we think about a place, and thus begins the narrative of exclusion. For Feeney, this is Kuwait. These depictions, by nature of the ways in which they exist, frame a people. The films were both created after Kuwait became a British protectorate in 1899. Again, borders were created for the Arab region, irrespective of the complexity of an unbordered people. So what am I researching? Essentially, this inquiry is untraceable, and it's one based on the liminality of identities and who we think we are, the ways of framing people, and the larger existential inquiry, which is to say the problematics of framing in and of itself. Presenting culture through image is really the individual and collective ability to project imaginary meaning onto images that shape our visual understanding of culture and that in turn shape us back. In witnessing and sharing the various kinds of memes, these distributed practices of attaching image to culture is ultimately perpetual for the longing for virtual fixedness, for belonging. Our desires, if you will, are diffused by design. This is an illustration of a rhizome, a model that Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari have developed in 1,000 Plateaus as a mode of knowing and, for our purposes, a mode of society. In true 1,000 Plateauian fashion, a rhizome is open for the potential connectivity of any 2 points, it is non-hierarchical, and it is not singular, but rather is based principally on multiplicity. And this, I believe, is also the power of the internet meme. Internet memes are pervasive, not unlike the rhizome. They subvert the singular through the collection of individuals, allowing for transversal agency and creation, especially on the vehemently expansive global internet. Memes work exquisitely fast, and in their speed, they deterritorialize Kuwaiti nationalism. Yet, its re-territorialization is in the perpetually homogeneous existence through a multiplicity of frames. This is not unlike the films of Feeney and Villiers. Firstly, our ability to read these images without a specifically Kuwaiti context comes from our adopted universal ability to recognize the architecture of mimetic imagery, meaning there is a meme or meme structure that is the very reason that everyone here today, if you will, can look at these images and find points of access. In some ways, we all know what we're looking at. We might all be projecting different meanings to these frames, but that process of projection relies wholly on our ability to enter the image, which leads me to my second point. These films constitute yet another reductive frame. Sure, we can see here in so many frames the ways in which, for Feeney and Villiers in some senses, these films were an attempt to depict a multiplicity. But by virtue of representation, multiplicities can only be visualized to an extent or a limitation. The identity of Kuwait is a product of constant global memification. And finally, I will end with this powerful image, which without this research would not exist. This internet meme recognizes itself as a meme, right? It recognizes its capacity for mimesis in making explicit the absurdity of crying in Kuwaiti. Even more so, it converses with the absurdity of crying in Spanish, as if there is any one way to cry. The meme knows it, we know it. And we can see here that there is a point in which memes memify memes. They might exist as meta memes and yet as memes. So in some liminal capacity, they exist in a perpetual state of negotiation of territory and the conditions of limits. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmeen.